Jerry Jeudy with the catch of the day on Sunday as the Broncos were back in action after a day off, but it was Bryce Callahan's interception in the end zone that finished practice. Hello, I'm Phil Milani. Thank you for joining us for our Broncos Camp Daily Recap. 8 days into training camp, and so far, coaches happy with what they've seen out on the practice fields. Some pleasant surprises, too, including first-round pick Jerry Jeudy. It seems like every day we're talking about the rookie wide receiver. This morning before practice got started, I had a chance to catch up with his position coach, Zach Azzanni, and ask him what makes number 10 so special.
You know, Jerry has a unique skill set in that he's able to put his foot in the ground and change direction pretty fast. And he's always been like that. Since I recruited him back in 9th grade when he was 15, he could do that. And the other thing that Jerry has is he has great instincts. Things that there's no drill for, that you can't coach. He just has instincts. He understands leverage on defenders. He has a lot to work on. He's still a rookie wideout coming to the NFL. I mean, he's got a ton of things that we got to really work on. But the instincts, putting his foot in the ground, those things he's had, will continue to have. Now we're going to build off that.
Azzanni was sure to mention that he coaches Jeudy extra hard because, after all, he hasn't caught a pass in the NFL just yet. Let's bring in Aric DiLalla now. Aric, today wasn't the best day for the Broncos offense, but what did you see from the other side of the field?
Yeah, Phil, I thought Drew Lock in particular wasn't the most accurate he's been out at training camp. Had some underthrows, some overthrows. There were moments where he looked good. He connected down the field with Jerry Jeudy during a 7-on-7 period, and of course found Courtland Sutton for a leaping grab. But overall, it just wasn't quite as sharp as it had been, and you saw that toward the end of practice with a move the ball drill where the offense was down 5, had 40 seconds, had to get a touchdown, and Lock threw an interception there at the end of practice to Bryce Callahan to kind of stall that drive. Vic Fangio said after practice, that's a tough situation, but it's one that we need to learn to score during.
Do you think the Broncos are doing these situational type of things just because there's no preseason games, or this is just normal training camp work?
I think it's some of both, Phil. Vic Fangio has said before that he kind of prides his team on being able to handle those situations. We saw them work on some of that stuff last year. Maybe there's a little bit more that we're seeing this time around because of the lack of preseason games. And in addition to that end of game drill we saw, they also worked on Hail Marys. We've seen time management stuff early in training camp, and I expect as we get closer and closer to September 14th, we'll see even more of that.
Well, we heard from offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur after practice. He talked about what he's seen from Drew Lock so far through 8 days.
Sometimes your biggest plays come on scrambles, and because it's not always perfect. And so I think he's doing a good job there. The details and the tactics of things, I think he's getting better with all that. And quite frankly, for guys that come out of no-huddle operations, it's sad to say, but just working under center and being in the huddle calling a play. Although that seems to be natural for quarterbacks. In the old days, that's all we did. We played under center, and you called plays in huddles. When they come out of college sometimes, they're looking at cards. They get one word. They barely have an alternate snap count. And so even though he's done a good job with that, those are things that he's constantly working on.
Let's switch to the other side of the ball and bring in Sidney Jones. And Sidney, heading into camp, that third cornerback position was a big question mark. Now that we're more than a week in, where do you think the Broncos are there?
Yeah, Phil, defensive coordinator Ed Donatel actually spoke to the media today about that third cornerback spot. And he said between Isaac Yiadom, Devontae Bosby, and Devontae Harris, still fluid and open, and that they're going to take as much time as they want to decide that cornerback spot. He said when deciding that spot, he looks to see if they can show toughness to be a part of this defense, and he also looks to see if they can show that they can operate with this defense, if they fit in with the rest of the guys.
Yeah, he said that eventually they're going to select one of those guys, and they're going to be big contributors to this team as they move forward here. And we know that A.J. Boye is the number 1 cornerback. The number 2 spot, Bryce Callahan, there were some question marks about him coming into camp because of his injury, but so far so good, says defensive coordinator Ed Donatel.
He came in and did some work with the early group, and he's moving very well, and everything looks like his injury is totally behind him.
Good to hear that Callahan is doing well, because let's face it, the numbers are starting to dwindle on the defensive side of the ball. Rookie cornerback Michael Ojemudia missed practice with a quad injury and will be out at least a week, says head coach Vic Fangio. Also, rookie linebacker Justin Stranad left practice early with a wrist injury, although Fangio did not have an update as to how serious his injury was. All right, that's going to do it for us on this Sunday. For Aric, DiLalla, and Sidney Jones, I'm Phil Milani. Thanks for watching our Broncos Camp Daily Recap.